Wonder if I just figured out a secret magic trick.
Well, that would be great. Since we're 13 episodes into this thing, it's about
I just made a cup of coffee disappear with I've never done that before. That's what I'm talking about. No, I went back on the top left to messages.
Yeah.
So instead of closing out and going back, I just went straight back from this app via that little connection that says back to messages, and that did it.
Huh. I don't know what you're talking about, but great.
I know, man. Isn't it great to be to be in a band with a tech genius?
I'm glad somebody is, because I'm barely getting by. I mean, if it doesn't have a bunch of lugs on it, I'm not really. I don't really have it together.
I mean, me and you like our little toys, though. I mean, we're into it to a certain degree. We like it. We like it when it works. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not anti-technology. I'm not like using a typewriter and one of those 2-piece telephones with the thing, the cone that goes up to your ear. I'm not there. Although,
all that stuff sounds really cool, though.
Yeah, well, you see those old school telephones every once in a while. Like, this would be cool to buy one of these and have it in the house. And then it's like, no, it wouldn't.
It would just to look at, not to use.
Right.
It's a cool piece of art. But
Welcome to the 7Horse Nation podcast, everybody. My name is Phil Levitt. I play drums and sing in the band 7Horse, along with my partner,
Joey Callio, who attempts to make phone calls and plays guitar and sometimes sings.
Wow. Fantastic. What a multi-talented. So this is the year-end wrap-up edition of the first season of the 7Horse Nation podcast.
We picked a doozy.
We did. It was a matter of necessity, really, because, and here we are back basically at square one, it seems like. I mean, LA is under a lockdown order. This is where we started this thing.
I know, man.
Back in March. We had come out of a rip-roaring beginning to the year. Let's just take a look at the year in review. Yeah. It all started well enough. Well, actually, it started January 3rd, 2020. I'm going to run down a few things, and I want you just to give me the first thing that pops into your head. I
can't believe you just said January 3rd. That's when we started working?
Well, that's when our first track of the year came out. Was January 3rd. That was our first bit of activity for 2020. Was right out of the gate. We started on January 3rd, and I'm going to throw some things at you. And if you could, I know you can. I'm counting on it. You just respond with the first thing that pops into your mind, and maybe we'll give people some clues to a deeper listening experience on some of our music, and you can give us some of your reminiscences about some of the things that we've accomplished this year.
All right.
So it started.
You've made one assumption that I remember anything, but that's okay.
Well, I think I'm going to jog your memory with a few things.
Let's go with it.
All right. And then I guess we'll get back to what's going on right now. But it's all happening so fast, Joey.
It is.
So we started on January 3rd. We dropped a track called High Test Runnin'.
Oh, yeah.
What do you remember about the making of or the listening to of? What are your thoughts on High Test Runnin'?
The visual in my brain right now is definitely the Grow Lab, your underground bat cave or whatever. That definitely reminds me of that place. That place is where, stuff like that happens. It just, it just has that kind of immediate guttural kind of riff,
Right.
So, and we're so good at that.
Out all night to the break of day. Look in my eye, got something to say. Never knew the reason for it anyway. I got the high test running. The time is right for flesh and blood. Bone on bone, face in the mud. Too much is never enough.
the way, this song, of all of our new songs that came out this year, this one, and I talk about streaming data a lot, streaming metrics, because I take a look at that. That is a measure for me of how songs are connecting with people, because streaming is the number one way of consuming music now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm a subscriber on Spotify. I pay the $10 a month. I know you have Tidal.
I have both, but I have I think Spotify is going to have an enhanced version. I
Yeah.
probably won't get that because I have Tidal. I really
Right.
like it.
But there's all kinds of opinions and controversy about streaming and Spotify, and the guy who runs it, and the royalty rates. And the royalty rates are ridiculously low. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, it's not going away. We're not going back to
exactly
a big market for. I mean, there's a market for CDs and for vinyl, and that we want to give that to our fans. We produce limited quantities of those kind of physical products, but people are going to consume our music via streaming, and we're good with that. It's a way to spread the music all over the world. We're not going to get it into record stores all over the planet.
Well, people don't go there unless you're doing like what I'm doing. It's more for fun.
Yeah. But I mean, there will
it's not
always
the necessity anymore. Yeah,
exactly. You want to hear music, you pull it up on your phone. So anyway, this song "High Test Run" and Spotify put it into their new rock playlist.
That's right.
When it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And that opened it up to a lot more people. So it was the highest consumed song of the year. But what I remember about working on that track is, number one, we wrote the lyrics in the studio, which is always a high pressure.
You seem stressed that time for some reason.
Well, yeah. I mean, we were, time is money. You're in there. You're on the clock. You'd like to have everything ready to go and just put it down. But we got in there and we weren't totally together. And we were kind of, working on the song, which is a way we've done it a million times. But usually,
it just occurred. It had been a while since we'd done it like that, though. You're right. We just did a record with Dave, the fourth record. That was all, there was none of that.
Laid out.
Yeah, that was all laid out.
So we went in there with a friend, Brian Whelan, and, he's pretty funny too, because his whole thing is like, well, you guys, get your songs together. That's where he's coming from. Like, I want to hear some songs, and then we'll work on it. But if you don't have any songs together, you don't really have it. So
I'm going to say that that's partially right. It's not always right. You can write stuff in the.
Well, hey, look, if you have an unlimited budget, you can hang around the studio.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you had to bring that up, Phil. You had to bring the money. Yeah,
you can write all kinds of things in the studio.
Can't we just do that?
Yeah, I mean, you think about how some of those Dada records were made. It's like, but those things cost a few bucks.
I mean, that's why guys or girls would buy their own and make their own studios back in the day. It seemed like a lot of that went wrong, though. And those things tend to be kind of expensive.
Now it's so easy to do that kind of stuff. People are making huge records right in their bedroom. So that's not really what we do.
No.
We are, we're live playing musicians. We need help because we're not engineers.
Right.
So we're a little more old school. So it's in our best interest to hit the studio with a song together and ready to lay down. It just makes better use of our time and money. But in this particular case, we didn't have that. We were in the ballpark, but we didn't have it together. And I also remember that riff, the main riff of the song, we were initially thinking about it as a halftime feel, just to get into the weeds a little bit in music. The riff is like,
right. It was going to be more of a when the levee breaks kind of thing.
Exactly. It was when the levee breaks.
Mm-hmm.
But then we flipped it to a double time feel.
I think that had to be you, dude.
That was probably me. Yeah. And I like to give you credit.
I was in the room.
We were playing together at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, that was kind of what sent it down the road, so to speak.
Right. Yeah.
Opened up the whole thing for us. And we kind of do like to write songs that sound good when you're behind the wheel going fast.
Who does?
That's one of the things, that we like to do. That's part of 7Horse. So we did that there. So that was the first track we put out. Then we played the Troubadour. we followed that track. 2 weeks later, we were on stage for our big show at the Troubadour, where we, had run the whole gig ourselves. We bought out the Troubadour. We did all the ticketing. We wrestled with the ticketing companies and got control away from them. And
dude, you're talking about a gig that happened in 2020.
I know.
It doesn't seem possible. It seems impossible. The way time worked this year, it was not linear. It was very bent. It went around corners and stuff. It wasn't about seasons and months. It was something else.
So we did that. It was a great triumphant evening. It was really fun to play, and we had a good crowd that night.
People showed up.
Yeah, people showed up. The energy was high, and it was like, this is the jumping off point for other shows this year. And then
it was a jumping off point, all right.
Yeah.
Turned out to be a cliff.
One of the craziest things I've ever seen in all my years of life took place. Mm-hmm. And here we are.
Yeah.
It's like, who would have thought that we would have lived through this?
Right.
But we all did, and out of that came this podcast, seeing as that we were looking for ways to stay connected and to provide more interesting things to our audience and keep them in the loop about what we were doing. And the whole point of this podcast initially was supposed to be, quote unquote, pulling back the curtain to show you how a rock band in the 21st century is trying to, an independent band is trying to navigate these treacherous waters. Right. And that all kind of went out the window because the whole world got turned upside down.
Thank you, world.
We're coming back around to that, though. But in the course of, we set out to do 2 episodes a month. We didn't totally make that, but I think we did pretty well, all things considered.
Yeah.
Because, in the meantime, we also released 7 more tracks and did 3 live streams, including a 8-hour rockathon, which we can talk about a little bit too. I mean, we did a lot of stuff this year, especially considering what we were up against.
Yeah.
The inclination would have been to just like, well, I guess we can't do anything.
See you next year. Yeah.
Right. But you got to figure it out. And so we kept releasing songs. Next came a thing called Way Down South. What do you remember about that?
That I remember the writing session. This is so funny how this is working. I remember that being about your living room and less about downstairs. We worked it. We kind of worked that out up in the big room. And I remember just, long kind of writing sessions where we had an idea and there was a lot of lines being tossed between the two of us. That was a serious like writing session. That was old school writing.
Right? It was. A song about blowing up stereotypes and wishing for a different reality. little did we know that we really wanted a different reality than what was coming, because not long after that, it really got shut down here. Then we got into a situation where now you're going to try to come here in the middle of a pandemic so we can continue to work. And it took a while for us to make, I mean, we were like we are right now. We got locked down.
Right.
And we're back to lockdown here in Los Angeles. I mean, what's going on up in Seattle?
Well, right now it's it's headed in that direction. It's not quite as bad as it is in LA.
2020, we're just reacting to everything. What are we going to be able to do? How are we going to do it?
Exactly.
It wasn't really an opportunity to make a lot of plans for the year. You're just kind of winging it. And with that, I think we did pretty well. A bunch of songs got released and we played the kind of gigs we could play. And we did this podcast, a dozen episodes, and interviewed some pretty interesting people, as it turned out. What are your favorite episodes of the podcast this year?
Well, it's almost like my favorite moment of the podcast isn't the podcast. It was the email that, manifested itself
Right.
out of a conversation.
Yeah, that was weird.
I'm going to call that a highlight of the year.
Yeah, it sent us down a whole other road. I mean, it's weird how it all dovetails, because given what was happening, it was a natural to start looking back and telling stories about the past. And, we were kind of stuck in a moment in time here where we were unsure about how to move forward. So you start looking back and reminiscing. We're talking to each other like we are right now. So
Right.
we start talking about the last 25 years of our career together. And that opens up this conversation about Dada and about IRS Records and Miles Copeland.
Yeah.
And then one thing leads to another. And the next thing you know, we're interviewing Miles Copeland.
Yeah. Well, it was just about wouldn't it be, it would be great. This sounds crazy, but it would be great if we could get Miles Copeland. I know that's impossible. Miles Copeland, how the hell are you doing?
Well, I'm doing
excellent.
Hopefully you're here to give me a hard time.
You can count on that. That to me is a pivotal moment in our career. The record is a hit. And the band is in Rolling Stone and on Musician Magazine and on the cover of Music Connection. And I mean, we're at
Arsenio Hall show.
Yeah, we're on television. We did the Jon Stewart show in Arsenio Hall. And all that's waiting is to go mainstream. To me, that's the record company has to deliver at that moment, because the band's already delivered. We've given you a record that is a hit. And the job of the label is to blow it up even bigger. Do you remember anything about that?
I vaguely remember, the other thing that bands tend to believe, if you read biographies of artists or whatever, it's always the manager or the record company was a shit, You blame the business person. The other thing that I always found, with the Cramps and with the Wall of Voodoo and all these bands, is that because I was the record company, by definition, I was a businessman and probably a crook.
We've done a full retrospective and analysis of the IRS years this year, including appearing in shooting a segment. And we don't know if we're going to end up in the final cut or not,
right.
But including, I forgot about this, not only did we do that other stuff, we were also in a movie.
Yeah, that's true.
we were filmed for a documentary on IRS Records this year, which is insane. Yeah. And then we had a reunion with Dada in the Rockathon. So, I mean, what a bizarre. None of that would have happened without the current circumstances.
Yeah, we did. We wrung Dada out a little bit.
We did.
Yeah, that was unexpected.
We're thrilled to welcome our next guest to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, our dear friend, our bandmate Michael Gurley in the house, everybody.
was great to have that reunion and see Mike and play a little bit together. And I think people seemed to enjoy that. It was fun.
Yeah.
We kept releasing music as well. And the next track that came out in our long list of singles, and I guess these are all tracks that are eventually going to be on our next record,
right?
Or at least most of them,
right?
But we had a song called "Walking Free" that was something you brought in. That was prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, but was so apropos that it just seemed like, wow, this thing, you must have been somehow foretelling the future, because it just seemed right on the money for that. And we put together a video with our great art director guy, Bo Caldwell, put together this cool, haunting video of just empty cities and empty streets. And it was at a time when the world was in a lockdown. I really like this track. And what do you have any memories of writing it, or when we were working on it, or any thoughts about it?
That riff I've had for a little while.
Oh yeah, that cool.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Funny because it's one of the great things about music, about being a musician, and about like being aware of the possibilities, allowing for the possibilities. That song was the way I had originally envisioned it, and I kind of recorded on my iPhone a while ago, like a couple of years ago, as a kind of a rockabilly song. It just had a total different.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, it was like a something. I can't remember the lyrics. Was something about a devil doll or whatever. Just a real rockabilly cliche kind of.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely cool. I knew the best thing about it though was the riff. I always liked that. It's one of those like Zoso sticker kind of things. When you get it, it's like, oh, there's one. It's not a normal kind of. I don't know. It's not like you don't just walk into Guitar Center and pick up a guitar and all of a sudden that's the riff that comes out. It's not smoke on the water, which I like. That's an experimental. Like you got to be messing around a little bit to get those kinds of riffs.
Yesterday, who the hell you trying to be? I said, listen man, you don't understand, I'm just out walking free. He said, tell me where you're going, so I know where not to be.
So I've always really liked that riff, and I love how we took that riff and made it's way more sophisticated. It's so much better this way. I mean, it's 10,000 times better this way. So I'm really glad it went that direction. And, I'm sad for the world that it was so apropos, but that really was a good, that was one of those ones where I'm glad I didn't like force it early,
So then eventually you did get down here, and we started working here. We went through the entire testing protocol. We developed our own strategy to create a bubble and get tested, and
which was pretty.
We did all that.
It was pretty strict.
It was.
I mean,
we had no idea.
Musicians.
Well, we had no idea what we were, dealing with. I mean, your first flight down here was a total unknown kind of scenario.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
So, when you got down here, we thought you might be radioactive. So we had to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
But we did. And, we waited the appropriate time, and we went to the Dodger Stadium and we got tested. And of course, we filmed all of it and shared it with the audience.
I mean, how about the lines back then compared to how it is now?
Yeah.
I saw some of those lines on the news and it was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. We started writing and we recorded. We actually went in and did some stuff.
Yeah.
And, we returned to the studio with just on our own with our engineer, Mark Rains, because we couldn't get anybody else to come in there with us.
Yeah. He was great, by the way. He was very I mean, we were all very serious about it, but it was great that he was like willing to go for it, you know.
Yeah, so he was up for it, and we all got tested for the studio, so we were able to work without masks and work in a kind of more normal fashion. And then the recording session brought us 3 a.m. 3:05, our last two songs that we just put out, and
Right.
then a few more things that haven't come out yet. That's what we recorded this year, but we already had We Got the Stones, Me and My Buddy, and WINE.
And those all came out this year, right?
Those came out. Those are the other three that came out this year. What are your thoughts on those songs? We Got the Stones, for example.
Okay, We Got the Stones. Boy, that was a thing where I got sent a picture from I don't know, someplace far off in India from Christina.
Mhm.
And she was all like, check out this club that's up on a mountain. I mean, we're talking about Mount Everest area, but not quite.
Talking about the Himalayas.
Yes, thank you. I didn't want to say the wrong thing and then get killed for it. Yes, thank you. But way up there, it was a place where you would just never suspect there'd be a kind of a nightclub like in a
Right.
cave.
So it's like base camp Everest. There's a nightclub.
Exactly. And it's dedicated. It's a Rolling Stones themed club, which is like, wow. So that's perfect. So yeah. And they had a phrase there that I liked. I thought it's like, I like it, but we need to kind of twist a little bit to make it make a little bit more sense for this song. Dude, that was just one of those things that just like caught fire. Like it just started. It happened. I don't even remember it happening. You know what I mean? It was just automatic.
They got the money, they know how to kill. Caught in the trap, trying to bend our will. They got the sun, they got the moon, we got the stones. They got the Maybach, the Patek Philippe. Paris for breakfast, but it just feels cheap. They got the song, they got the moon, we got the stones.
That song always sounds, it's like got a political undercurrent to it that I can't totally get my head around, but it's like they got the money, they know how to kill, caught in their trap, try to bend our will. There's a political undertone.
Old school political.
Yeah.
Like just like historically political.
Yeah, like 69.
Yes, exactly. It would have been perfect back then.
Yeah. That's fun when we've played that a lot. We play that live a bunch as a 2-piece, and we played it on the Rockathon, and that's going to be really great when we get our band rehearsed and are really able to do that.
No doubt.
After that was a track called Me and My Buddy came out after that. And that was a living room song. I remember that one. I think I can't remember exactly when I wrote that, but that was
well, you took your Gibson, your 50s.
Yeah,
Gibson.
I put it in C. Guess what? It's still in C.
Yeah. I think that's an L1 what you have there. And it sounded it's funny because I remember you telling me like I tuned this thing to C, and it sounds like this is what this guitar was meant to be in.
Right.
And that totally reminded me of an article I read with Jackson Brown in Acoustic Guitar Magazine. I mean, that's really nerdy. That was like about 15 or so years ago. When I was kind of getting back into learning how to play guitar on a little bit more sophisticated level. I read that article, and he was talking about that is how that's his whole thing. It's like he'll buy a guitar and he'll sit there and play it and figure out what tuning it is meant for, and that's it. You don't move it. So
well, I mean that's very clear. Now I have your J45 is in my house right now. So I got 2 acoustic guitars, and yours is in standard tuning.
You're playing. I'm glad you're playing it.
Oh yeah,
that's a great guitar.
I'm writing stuff on it.
I love that guitar.
I'm going to send you some stuff that I wrote on.
How do you like that guitar? I mean, you played it obviously.
Yeah.
How do you like the?
I like it. It's the more I play it, the more I like it.
Yeah, it's got a great sound. It's a good. It's not, the neck isn't too big, but too small. It's perfect.
But me and my buddy on my guitar in open C was so great because it's all one finger bars.
Right.
It's just moving around.
Right.
It's like you need no left hand technique at all.
Well,
to
you're
play
doing
this song.
a little. You're doing
a couple
you're adding nines.
Yeah,
and things
I
like
hammered on a couple of
Yeah.
things. But is it about me and my good friend? Well, yeah, it is. But I have a dog named Buddy, so
Right.
it's kind of worried. But it's a dog song.
All right. Right. Well, every band needs a dog song. So.
Dog songs are always good.
My buddy and me had a hard day's night. He was so bone tired, had to give up the fight. He found himself in eternity's light. My buddy and me had a hard day's night. As the sun dipped down neath the pale red sky, got that faraway look in his eye. I know you're gonna say goodbye, so I'm left to wonder. As the sun dipped down neath the pale red sky, I got that faraway look in his eye.
And then we put out this thing called WINE because I really want. Now this was a vibe I think that we were playing around with. This was one of your little groovy riffs, and I think I might have listened to DIVORCE, that country song.
Right.
I love those country songs where it's like it's spelled out.
Right.
So I thought, man, this is perfect for us.
Well,
WINE.
I remember it slightly different.
Okay.
Now it's funny because every song has to do, the origins seemingly have to do with a place in your house. Okay. So
right.
this is about your, what do you call that circular room? Is that a dining room, I guess there?
It's a dining room. Yeah,
your dining room. Okay. This is about being in your dining room, dude. And you looking across the table at me going, I got an idea. This is what I want you to do. I want you to write a song called WINE. And I'm all, what? And you're all like, yeah. And that's how it started. You had the idea to write that song first, which was smart.
Right. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I had the title before
you
we
had the title.
Song.
Yeah.
And then I remember a big thing when we were cutting this track with in the studio with Brian Whelan. This whole approach to this track and how hard we were going to play it and how heavy we were going to make the drums, and a lot of different kind of back and forth about trying to take it away from our sort of wheelhouse of what we had always done, which would be to kind of attack it and hit it really hard. And so the drums are with, they're not played with sticks. It's kind of a fatter, plastic brush thing. And it's, instead of cranking the guitar amps to 11, it's a little more intimate, but we still got a pretty beefy sound out of it, but it wasn't attacked in a really loud, kind of aggressive way.
Right.
And he was right. It was good. It was a good approach. For
yeah.
Stuck in LA traffic, worst it's ever been. Politics, forget it, can't talk that shit again. Climate change is plain to see, the world just caught on fire. They stole our signs and blew our minds, but I still got my desire. Oh, WINE, have another glass. We should never end it, it always goes too fast. Yeah, WINE, fill it up again. We should never end it, now pull the cork, my friend.
Then we were out of songs at that point. When we released that's when you got down here and we had to get back in the studio.
Right.
And we cut a bunch of stuff and we came up with, obviously pandemic was, all we were thinking about. It's hard not to think about it. You're living in the middle of it. So that's where 3 a.m. came from. Yeah. Sort of a newsreel song about a moment in time.
Right.
Woke up 3 a.m., sticky sweat, here we go again. terrible dream, face covered in fear. All I wanna do is run away from here. So I started running, but there ain't nowhere to run. The newsman said death toll rise, and the Mega Man said, well, that's surprise. We're doing so great, it's greater than ever before. And so I head on down to the corner bar where everybody knows me, they got my star, but the joint shut down, so I wind up drinking alone. Like a butterfly caught in a net, a delicate place of bet, stuck in the spoke and afloat till we hear you say, haven't seen your face in a while, hope you're gonna give me a smile, only wanna see you, can you hang on a little
while? That'll be something we can look back on in, years from now.
That's a good
that'll
song.
be the song that sort of, yeah, I really like
Yeah.
that song. I like that song a lot, and it just encapsulates a moment, I think, pretty well.
Right.
The last thing we put out just I don't know, 2 weeks ago was this ode to one of the sports or interests that is most near and dear to your heart.
Yes.
Which is Formula One auto racing. So this track is, my contention is that 305 is the greatest song ever written that is inspired by Formula One racing. I think that's a pretty short list.
I can't think of another one.
If anybody could send us an email with another song, another rock song that
not a racing song,
uses,
not a car song. I mean,
not
the
like
Beach Boys
409 by the right. We had right, and it's inspired by the Beach Boys a little bit too. The fact that you've got a song title like 305 is definitely a bit of an homage to 409.
Right.
But it's 409 is not about Formula One auto racing.
No, that's
305.
Yeah, 305 is that's a distance thing, right? And 409 is a cubic inch thing.
That is 305 is the minimum distance, except for Monaco. Apparently, the race in Monaco is shorter.
That's the shortest lap in Formula One. Although the one they just did was the second shortest lap. But let's not. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to start.
But other than the Monaco Grand Prix, all the other Grand Prix are at least 305 kilometers long.
Yes.
So that's how we got to the title of 305, and it's got a bunch of references, deep inside references to the world of Formula One. And the other thing I remember about this track is that it was arranged completely different. We cut it in a different arrangement, and then in the studio we rearranged.
Well, it took a left turn in the studio. There's all kinds of stuff going on in these sessions. There's writing, there's rewriting, all kinds of things. And that song definitely benefited from some very imaginative ideas, which I will say, you were like, all of a sudden you just like, you combusted, you were on fire. Like you were just like, this, what about this? What about that? What about this? And you actually hummed a melody, and I'm all, what octave? And I played it high, and I'm all, wait, I played it low. I'm all, no, there it is, down there. And that's that little James Bond thing.
That James Bond thing, yeah. So that to me, what I really like about this track is that when I listen to it, when I put on headphones, if I close my eyes and listen to this track, I feel like I'm in a video game.
Totally.
It's like the whole thing is like so visual, and with the actual racing samples that we dropped in there, it's like you're in the cockpit of the car, man. You're on the track. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. That's like a little movie, a 2 minute and 2 minute and 48 second movie. Well, so if you our
Formula One buddy in Mexico loves it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
That guy is a marshal, dude.
He is.
He's
I
a
know. He's a
marshal.
marshal.
I'm all, no, it's not about you. You're not a drag.
Yeah. But I think, we could go down there and probably be pretty stoked out at the Mexico City race.
He says he does the Canadian one too, so I'd do
That'd be
both.
awesome.
Yeah.
So we should do that
Hell
next year if we can travel around.
Yeah. Well, I'm still planning.
So
by the way, I was supposed to go to the Italian Grand Prix this year.
Right.
I had tickets. First time in my life. It was going to be a big, huge thing. Did not work out.
Yeah.
No, didn't work out. Nobody got to go.
The rest of the podcast, we got a chance to talk to some pretty interesting people, including our friend Cherie Curry. So a lot of people think there's touring is such a glamorous lifestyle. What were the early Runaways tours look like?
Oh, Lord. Well, they picked me up in a rundown, beat up, used motorhome. and I'd never been away from home or my family ever. And I'll never forget that first night we were going through the Mojave Desert and that horrible, sick feeling in my stomach of homesickness, the debilitating kind. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced homesickness before, but it's really, it just your psyche. You just start crying. You just want to go home, know. And, Lita actually helped me for that one moment. She just turned around because I just said, I don't think I can do this. I mean, it was so scary. And she turned around, she goes, I'm homesick too, but when I come back, I want to be somebody. Right. And that's all she had to say. And it just turned off.
That was a great interview.
All of our collaborators, the great Dave Way, we started with our closest friends, Brian, Doris, Dave Way. Those were all great conversations. And it was great to, stay connected with those people then, because it was right at the beginning when everything was kind of like, we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then we tried to branch out a little more and got to people like Cherie and, the whole Miles thing. And then,
how about the
went
Wally?
down memory lane with
Wally,
two-parter with
Wally.
Wally.
That was actually the first big one.
Started it. Wally.
Testing 1, 2. How do I sound?
You sound brilliant, man.
How the hell are you, Wally?
I'll share with you guys, and I might have shared this with you years ago. One of my favorite quotes, the author Pearl S. Buck that wrote The Good Earth. This is her quote. And she said, "The truly creative mind in any field is no more than this: a human creature born abnormally, inhumanly sensitive. To him, a touch is a blow, a sound is a noise, a misfortune is a tragedy, a joy is an ecstasy. A friend is a lover is a god, and failure is death. Add to this, cruelly delicate organism, the overpowering necessity to create, so that without the creating of music or poetry or books or buildings or something of meaning, his very breath is cut off from him. He must create, must pour out creation. By some strange, unknown inward urgency, he is not really alive unless he is creating." Unquote. If that describes you, and I know it describes both of you, you can't do anything else but this.
That started it.
Yeah.
And then even, Bob Margolin was a reach out to left field, but man, I really enjoyed talking to him. And
super fucking cool.
He's a really cool guy.
Yep.
Let's just get into with Muddy Waters. How does your career with him get started, coming out of the late 60s into the early 70s?
Well, I'd first heard his music in about the mid 60s or so when I was still in high school, but on a college radio station. There was a blues show. I heard that slide guitar and I said, oh my God, that's great. But then I heard the voice and I said, wow, the guitar player and the singer are both fantastic. Found out it was the same person. In the early 70s, I was in bands that opened for Muddy Waters, and I got to know him a little bit, and he could see that I was trying to play old school Chicago blues, which is what he did.
Yeah.
Then eventually I did have the opportunity to join his band and realized it with full perspective. If I don't do this, this puts a cap on me playing blues, which I love very much.
I really hope we get a chance to meet in person one day and maybe play together, because I think that would be, I'd love to. If we get this thing to the Greek Theater, I'm inviting him to play on
totally,
the show.
100%.
So let's take a look at 2021. And now we're in a different position because we kind of have a better idea about what we're dealing with and what may transpire. The road to some kind of light at the end of the tunnel may be ahead of us. I think things look like they're going to be hairy for a few months still around here. But nevertheless, we've kind of navigated through it already. You came out at a time when people were not traveling the first time.
Yeah, it was empty.
And it may be like that again.
Yeah.
It may be a good window for you to fly again.
That's true.
Post holidays, there might not be anybody moving around.
I know.
We don't expect to be going on tour in 2021. I mean, for a band like us to be in a van situation, traveling around the venues, we don't know what's going to be out there, what's going to be left.
Is going to be touring like that.
I mean, that's not going to be happening. So what are we going to do instead? We know what we can do. We can do this podcast.
Right.
We can write and record music. We can do live streams. We can put up fantastic, interesting, entertaining content on our social media platforms and stay in touch with our audience. We can produce and
you're not overhyping it at all.
Well, we can put a bunch of boring crap up that maybe people are going to look at, and maybe they won't. Is that better?
No.
I say overpromise and overdeliver.
Yeah,
that's my strategy.
That's a great way to go, actually.
The second half of it, though, is key. You can't just overpromise. You have to overdeliver.
No, you do.
We have an opportunity now during this holiday season or post-holidays or whatever, before we kick into the year. Let's plan out the whole year, because really we're still looking 2 years down the road. Our goal, as we set it out before, was to be at the Greek Theater in the summer of 2022. That's still out there. That's 18 months away.
Yeah.
You better get busy
if
you're going to get there, because we got to grow the audience by about a factor of 10 between now and then to pull it off.
No problem.
Yeah. So how do you do that? Well, you record great music. You put out great, for lack of a better word, content, which includes the podcast, all the stuff we put out on social media. You create awesome merch, and you ask people to participate that way, and you play live. So you live stream, whether it's from the house like we've done a couple of times, or in a more full production setup. And guess what, 2021 happens to be the 7Horse 10-year anniversary.
That is true.
Did you know that?
I did, actually. I did.
You did know?
I did.
Okay,
I knew that. That one I knew.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of jumped up on me. I wasn't really thinking about it. And then suddenly it's like, oh, wait a minute. Our first record came out on 11/11/11.
That's why I remember.
That's when we,
because that you don't forget that.
So I'm thinking, what about, the 7Horse 10-year anniversary show? 11/11/21 is a Thursday night. You think it might be possible to do a show in front of some people here in Los Angeles and also live stream it to the world, maybe from the same facility we did the Rockathon in, with a full band, a ticketed show that we are producing with maybe a few guests to spice it up, and a full band set celebrating the 7Horse 10-year anniversary with a live audience of, I don't know how many people we could accommodate at that point, but they do have facilities there that would hold a live audience. That would be, to me, that would be my dream year. We release a bunch of music, put a full album out, put out some CDs of the new record, maybe some vinyl of another record, come up with some more really cool t-shirts and other goodies, and put out some really interesting stuff on Facebook, great videos, great music. What do you think?
I'm in. It's funny because I'm there. Funny because the thing about that show is that it's either going to be, and you don't usually think of shows like this, Phil. It's either going to be legal or illegal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It could be illegal to have people in a room at that point.
Right.
I'm hoping I'm leaning like there's going to be, I don't know how many people we're going to be able to have at that point, but it's feeling like we might be able to get there by then.
Maybe we can put an audience in a room and have a pretty good party and still stream it. I think the landscape is going to look different, moving forward. Even when it all, quote unquote, does come back, it's coming back different than it was before.
Well, the 50s weren't like the 60s, and the 60s weren't
Right.
like the 70s. I mean, things do change naturally, but
Yeah.
this just like
Right.
threw a little gasoline on the change factor, definitely. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it's ever going to be exactly how it was. I guess should it in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
I think live streaming is more of a thing than we realized it was when we got
Right,
into it. I think people enjoy watching it and they'll continue to
right.
watch it. I hope.
Not to compare
Um,
us to anybody, okay? Because this is going to be one of those things where it's like, really? Imagine, Phil, if when we were kids we could live stream the Beatles and the Stones and Led Zeppelin and the Monkees. I guess you
right.
you did get to do that with the Monkees because they were on TV. But
Right.
but I mean that would be cool. We would have
Yeah,
loved it.
it would. Right. We have to get down to the details, like when can we move around? When can we get in the studio?
Right.
When can you get down here? When, but
What
that's the job. That's what this is. If you're going to look at your music life as a job,
think
is to
about
do all
as far
those
as
things.
touring goes, and ideas, coming up with ideas. How can we possibly tour, with people and stuff like that?
Mm.
Have you seen that new kind of thing where Santa Clauses are on the corner in these big globes, these bubbles? Have you seen those?
Well, I think OK Go did a show like that. Somebody did a show like that. Was it Flaming Lips? Like everybody in a bubble. I just like,
I mean, it's not quite Spinal Tap.
can't
I mean,
do that.
Spinal Tap,
No, I want to
that,
come back.
that hard plastic, and it was too close.
Yeah,
These are like
the
full
pod.
blown, like
Yeah,
it's soft plastic, it's see through. You can put you can put your
yeah,
own like environment on the inside.
right. It's like
I mean, but they're kind
little
of
bouncy
big.
house. Sure.
We could
Yeah,
get like on the back of a flatbed and tour like that. We just go town to town.
right. That sounds like fun.
Come on.
Uh, well, all right.
Yeah,
I'll
you'll
let
ponder
me
that.
let me I'll take that
Yeah.
under consideration. You might be able to sell me on that. But I'm gonna try to envision a show with real human beings in it, and we're live streaming it, and we're celebrating the 10-year anniversary of 7Horse, and we're
I mean,
having
come on. That would be killer.
a blowout that night on the 11th of November 2021. And then we'd have, basically the next 8 months to get ourselves to the Greek Theater. So let's do this. Let's put our heads down. Let's work as hard as we can in 2021. And let's see where we come out in a year. And let's see how much closer we got to the bigger goal.
GT.
But, it's one step at a time. That's how you.
GT.
Yeah, exactly. GT. Meanwhile, a message to the 7Horse Nation. Now, this is the people that regularly listen to the podcast. This is the core group. This is the group within the group. It's a small audience, loyal audience. We really appreciate everybody listening because we enjoy doing this, obviously. But it's good to know that people are listening to it and enjoying it too. So we're gonna try to find some more cool
Is there
people to
something
talk
that
to in
that this
2021.
core audience
People that have.
Is there anything they're asking for that we're not doing, or just keep doing
No,
what you're doing?
I don't think so. I mean, everybody wants more kind of behind the scenes details. They want to be. I think people like to go inside the process, and so that's why when we're in the studio, we try to turn the camera on. You have to let go a little bit to do it, but
so you don't want to give away
I think
the secret of the songs too early.
Right. That's true. But I think there's also a benefit to bring people in a little bit earlier and to share the experience of making the thing, especially if you're asking people to support it, which we are, because this is listener supported rock and roll. PayPal.me/low fuel drug run, everybody. If you want to make a contribution and be a part of listener supported rock and roll. If you're going to do that, then I think you have to open the doors up and invite people in to the whole experience, because it's about more than just the final product. It's about the journey, really. And it sounds a little bit cliche, but it's true. That's what building a community and having a real connected fan base is about. It's not just we put out songs, you buy them.
Right.
That's pretty old school nowadays. So we're trying to share more of the experience with people earlier in the process. And we intend to keep doing that, whether it's turning the camera on down in the grow lab while we're writing, or live streaming from the living room, or being in the studio and sharing that with people, or whatever. let's keep doing the podcast. Let's keep bringing interesting people in to talk to, and let's get busy and really crank out some great rock and roll.
We didn't do in 2020 that we talked about? The kitchen videos.
Kitchen Wednesdays.
Yeah. It's all it's basically coffee.
Real stripped down, even more stripped down. Yeah, coffee. So we'll do that too. But that's going to be cool, Kitchen Wednesdays, because it sounds good in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get the sound of the
machine
grinding, and then we'll play a little music. It's going to be great. So there you have it, everybody. I want to thank everybody for listening to the 7Horse Nation podcast this year. We're going to keep on going, keep on growing.
Is that an REO song?
Heading toward that big goal. Keep on going. Sounds like one, right? Keep on going.
That's it.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add, Joey?
I tell you
to the wrap up.
I am so thankful that we have this life. I mean, what so many other people, the pandemic it was an off switch, straight up off switch. Like there's no, hey, we can live stream, or hey, we can put out music or whatever. I mean, they're
right.
off, and I really, my heart's out to those people. Believe me.
You're right. That's a good point. I was thinking about this yesterday too. It's like this work, the ability to produce art, to make our work and to release it and to get some feedback on it, to know people are listening and to have projects to work on. I mean, the Rockathon, the intensity of all that was like a saving grace for me for this year. I think I would have lost my fucking mind otherwise. I really do. I mean, that was a way to stay connected to who I really am, to who you are, stay connected with other people. It was all through the vehicle of the music. And I'm with you, man. I'm so grateful for that, because I've realized in the aftermath of it in the last month or so, I've had more difficulty kind of dealing with my everyday life and the stresses of life.
I'll tell you what, that Rockathon took me about 3 weeks to just to stand straight. I mean, that was
intense, man. It was intense.
That I got wrung out. It was like all adrenaline, so you didn't realize what it was doing to your body till a couple days later.
Yeah. But that was a great experience, man. I mean, that's something I'll always remember about this year, is doing that show. That was a phenomenal experience. And again, thanks to everybody who participated in everything we did this year, who streamed our music, who bought our merch, who commented on our Facebook posts, who listened to this podcast. That's what this is all about for us, is connecting with you guys, and to have an audience out there that is listening.
Absolutely.
Is one of the greatest things we could ever ask for. Happy holidays to everybody. This will be our last podcast of the year. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year. And I, for one, won't be sorry to wave goodbye to 2020. One for the books.
The encyclopedias.
And we'll be back with more episodes in 2021 of the 7Horse Nation podcast.
Take a roll up in my